So easy to do this. And we're on. So hi everyone again, we're back. We were supposed to be on last week, but stuff happens like unforeseen heat waves throughout the Northeast. I mean, you were like what? You were having like 100 weather down in Philadelphia, I think again.
Yeah, we were in a heat advisory for a couple days, and unfortunately, one of the things that happens when there's a heat advisory is your power can go out. We get brownouts sometimes, and basically it gets really hot, and the power lines, click off for a little bit. They'll go back on. There's nothing you can really do to turn them on quicker. You call your Pico, call the company, and that's our electric company, and you call them and basically say, hey, power went out, and they say, okay, we'll get to you in 2 hours.
3 hours.
Yeah, whatever the case might be. They're like the cable company. So you just gotta bear with it, and unfortunately, when your power goes out and it's 100 degrees, that means no air conditioning or plug-in fans of any kind. So pretty brutal. One of those times, like I've literally in the past, it's been so hot, I've gotten into my car
Just to get AC.
just to put the air on. Like I don't even care if I'm using up my gas. I've gotten into my car because I needed something that was cool.
I know admittedly I was gonna say I promised not to talk about the weather, but I think it's kind of a story concerning the fact that I don't know if we were talking about right now with Philadelphia, but I mean on the other side on the other side of the country, you hear about Portland, Oregon,
No.
115 degrees, 117 degrees. It was the fourth. It was the fourth highest recorded location in the world,
Oh my
behind
gosh.
the Sahara Desert. It's the highest it's ever been there. But it was behind the Sahara Desert, the Middle East, and Death Valley.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like they were like states of emergency because they don't have the AC that we've got in the Northeast. Because like their average high this time of year is like 75, 80
Well,
tops.
and that's the thing that they were saying was a lot of these areas that are not used to this heat. It's the same way that when you have areas that aren't used to all this snow, they get hit with snow. Like California gets hit with snow, and they're
Oh
like, "Oh my
shit!
gosh, we can't drive on the road.
Yeah,
There's an inch of snow." Like all these other areas that aren't used to heat, when they get it, you're right. They don't have the air conditioning, and just the general fact that people aren't used to weather that hot.
I mean
Got to be brutal.
that's not even the scariest thing about the weather. Like last week with that, it was like yes, 118 is insane. Yeah, without question. But like Whistler Mountain was 102 in Vancouver.
Jeez.
They had heat warnings in the Arctic Circle.
And
Let's put
people
that.
say global warming isn't real.
You said that I didn't, but I'm thinking it. We'll say that much. I was totally thinking it the whole way. It's like I was gonna say if you're gonna say it first. But on to some like sad news. So we're gonna start our show now. We just wanted to get the weather out of the way and explain why we weren't on the air last week. But okay, like I said, we got some sad news report, and it was like within the last 4 days, these both happened, including one yesterday. I think Dell passed away. We didn't. Mr. Wilkes passed away 4 days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the former pro wrestler and college football player at the University of South Carolina, Dell Wilkes, better known to wrestling fans if you watched in basically the late 80s through 98. He was known as the Patriot. He was like the All-American gimmick before there was like the real All-American gimmick, not like Hulk Hogan, Real American. This was like All-America. This was Mr. America before Mr. America. And like he did a lot of indies in America too, besides he eventually made his way to WCW. He was like in the Global Wrestling Federation, the USWA, and then like he went to WCW, was a tag champion with Marcus Bagwell. But then again, who wasn't? Because he was like a 10-time tag team champion, like with so many different people.
Oh wow.
But I'm talking about Marcus Bagwell, not the Patriot.
Right.
Yeah, he was like, okay, hey, we need a tag team partner. Yeah, give him Marcus. Why not? But anyway, like yeah, Del Wilkes, the Patriot. He was in WCW for like 2 years, disappeared. Went to like All Japan Wrestling for 3 years, and then randomly shows up on the then WWF TV for about during the whole anti-Canada, pro-America like storylines, weaving in with Bret Hart, British Bulldog, Vader. It was just like, and then ultimately he had his career ended when he tore his tricep, and then he just retired from wrestling in '98 when he after got released from WWF. But he was more known probably for after his career because it was one of the most well-documented issues with like he admittedly he used cocaine and painkillers like throughout his career. He learned it in college, and he was very open about it. Like, and then when he tore his tricep, it was like the Achilles, like the straw that broke his camel's back because it was just too much, and he was taking so many.
Right.
I think his number he said in the interview because he did an interview with like Real Sports, and I think the number was like 60. It was a huge number for painkillers. like even by pro wrestler standards, it was a gigantic
Yeah.
number. And yeah, he passed away, I believe, like I said, 4 days ago to apparently a heart attack. I mean, he was 59 years old, so I mean, he wasn't a young guy, thankfully, but he's still one of the wrestlers under 60. So he's technically won another statistic, even though he was like at the very end of the statistic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty sad. I mean, anytime anybody dies, obviously it's sad, but when you see somebody die in what would still be considered to be young, it's definitely kind of doubly sad because you always think about what they still could have done. And, there's kind of an eerie story, I guess is the only way I can put it. I didn't really know much about my wrestling knowledge does not go nearly as far back as yours does. So I appreciate you being able to kind of fill in the blanks there. I hadn't even heard of the Patriot as a wrestler, as a character, until maybe a couple weeks ago. The site that I, help write for, edit, things like that, we recently brought on a writer, and he had a previous relationship with the Patriot. He actually knows several wrestlers, and he was one of them. And he, still knowing him, was able to sit down with him, and they had an interview. And basically, this interview was conducted maybe 3-4 days prior to the Patriot's death. No one knew that was going to happen. So as far as we know, that was the last time that he was, kind of on the record and, giving quotes and everything like that. It's a great read for anybody who's interested in learning a little bit more about his career, learning about what motivated him, what drove him. There's some great quotes in there. You can read it on Last Word on ProWrestling.com. And yeah, it's just, one of those things you never know when somebody's going to, pass away suddenly. So for, that writer to have had that gift and that opportunity to sit down with the Patriot one last time, I think that was really special for both of them.
Oh, I can imagine so. I mean, like I say, I just glazed over his career, but like, I mean, where he was just like in like GWF, like New Japan, All Japan, and like WCW and WF. I mean, they redid his music to put into Kurt Angle's music. We'll put it that way. There's more bells and whistles in it, literally, and that's the only difference between his music and Kurt Angle's music. It's virtually the same thing. If you look up his theme song, it's like almost identical. I mean, obviously, because they're both Mr. All America and all.
Right. Similar type of gimmick, and yeah.
Except for one's like a legit lethal ass kicker, the other one's Del Wilkes, and I don't mean that in a mean way to Del at all. Just like Kurt Angle's, like, just, he's an amateur, he's a national world champion wrestler, gold medalist. But yeah, and unfortunately, that's not the only death we got to talk about. I mean, we knew it was coming. We said like we went 7 episodes without talking about one. I think that's a record for like me, you, and even Phil. We made Phil along.
Yeah, it was kind of weird, in a good way, obviously. But of course, when it rains, it pours. So we missed a week, and of course now we have 2 to make up for it almost. Real sad.
Yeah. This guy though, like, I cannot say his name. It's like Matthias.
So like goalie. Like Matisse.
Yeah, it's Matisse. I'm like, see if I can find the phonetic. What is his name? Yeah, but anyway, like the goalie, he's the backup goalie. He was the backup goalie for the Columbus Blue Jackets, and he was only 24 years old. And I get the ESPN notifications on my phone. I get like the athletic notifications from my phone blows up anytime anything big happens, and this was kind of big. And it was notified that like this guy died, and he died from a freak accident, and he fell. Like it sounded like he fell out of a cliff. The way they worded it originally was like that way, and he was only 24 years old. And then both sides come back up and they say we have to correct ourselves. It was not a fall. It was actually he got hit by a random mortar from a 4th of July celebration, and it was right into his chest. So I can only imagine how much pain he was in, and like be only 24.
Yeah, it's a horrible story. No death is any better or worse than another. None is ever any easier for a family or anything like that. But to, be out and celebrating a holiday where you're just out having fun. You don't ever question, you don't ever think that fireworks are going to kill you. Obviously people have mishaps with fireworks. You burn your hand on a sparkler, and
You
you hear
blow your
about,
hand off.
right. You do, yeah, JPP.
I
You
have to.
do
You got to mention.
you do hear about those stories every now and again, but I can't say I've ever heard of one where somebody died because of a mortar from a firework. Ran loose and whatever the case might be, it hit the poor guy in the chest. It's awful, and it
Especially
sounds like a
a preventable.
painful way to go.
Especially it's a preventable death.
Right, right. And I mean, there's obviously going to be an investigation. There's probably more details that are yet to come out. How close was he to the firework?
And
Was it something where the firework malfunctioned? And there's more information
was
certainly
this?
that we're going to learn, I'm sure.
Yeah, was this a pub? Was this like a citywide celebration? Was this one of the ones in his house, like just his house, or where was it?
Right. Yeah. There's
There's
definitely a
more,
lot of information that
and
will
like I
come
said,
out.
this is more this is a developing story because this literally happened yesterday. So, but like onto some like I mean like I pay respects to both those gentlemen who passed away. I mean, both were way too young for their age to pass away. So like I said, we can move on to some better news. Like, let's see the what's it called the agreements with the college football players or college sports players, and
Yeah.
they're kind of insane. Well, like the twin girls from my favorite colleges, they have like a TikTok deal. They were on TikTok because they're twins, and then like Boost Mobile was sponsoring them.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they're getting like they're not people aren't like pulling punches. Like I mean, some of them are really small deals, which is adorable. But like some of them are like yeah, it's Boost Mobile giving like these sponsoring these twins and twin girl basketball players. And I mean, they're not releasing the amounts, but I'm sure it's a decent chunk of change.
Oh,
I
for
know,
sure.
I know Derek King, the quarterback from Miami, and the quarterback from Florida State's name is escaping me, but they've done a partnership where it's like they're trying to do it so like kids like have money to go to school, basically. And I have Spencer Rattler, who's apparently talked about right now as the first overall pick in the 2022 NFL draft from Oklahoma. They're already talking like, excuse me for a second, that he's going to donate half of whatever he gets for endorsement deals to like at risk people and like people of need.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, he probably figures he's gonna make enough money in the pros.
Well, true. I mean,
but
but
it's so great.
just the nature of this is such a landmark case in the NCAA, and the fight against paying athletes. This is a huge step in the right direction, and I'm so happy to see it.
Well, yeah, I mean it's like anything else. It's like I mean my friend Brandon have talked about this at length because yeah, people are like, oh yeah, but they get their education paid for. Well, so do scholar athletes, don't they? Or scholarship, sorry, not scholar athletes, scholarship, like people are on academic scholarships.
Right.
I mean, say you went to a division. We'll say you went to we'll use Temple as an example because it's close enough for you. Say you went to Temple on a like, communications, but you got an academic scholarship, and I went for a football scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
You can work. I can't under the old NCAA rule. I can't have even a job. I can't have a job in the damn library.
Right. Exactly.
And what's I mean, I still want to know, according to the NCAA, what's the difference between me and you if we're both on a scholarship, but yours is academic? To me, there's nothing.
It's definitely a antiquated system that the NCAA has been able to get away with it for so long because of all the power that they have held and all of the influence that the league was still able to impart. It's something where they had so much control for such a long time, and when you're ingrained like that, it's so hard to wrestle even a portion of that control away. So there is no difference. You're 100% right. The only difference between us in that situation would be, biologically, you are a male that plays sports. I am a female that went to study communications. But from an academic standpoint, from a student standpoint, I don't see how there's any difference between a student athlete. Yes, it may be more difficult for a student athlete to have a work study job just based on their schedule of practice and all of those other elements. But that's the thing. It should still be their choice. It should be their choice of whether or not they want to earn some extra money or whatever they want to do.
Or if they want to pay for privacy for an apartment.
Right, exactly. You, as an athlete, should not be precluded from any experience on that college campus that any other student is entitled to.
Oh hell, let's make it more like in like 2019. You have this athletic scholarship, and I got the academic scholarship. Like, yeah, you got the academic scholarship to play soccer. You can't have a job, but I'm a communications major and I got a 4.0 and going to school, and so do you. What's
Right.
the difference? There's literally no difference between to me. There's no difference between academic and athletic,
Right. And I mean, you look at
unless you're
football and basketball, obviously, as the two main sports where all the money is funneled in. But if you get an athletic scholarship to play, so
field
I think
hockey
soccer is a good example, yeah, or field hockey or swimming or, any of these smaller events, you're not getting, you may be getting your education paid for, but there's really no post college, opportunity for you. Like, sure, with a lot of these sports, there's the Olympics, but that's an event that comes around once every 4 years. You're going to make your money on endorsements, on things like that. If you're talented, even with women's soccer, like, yes, there's a women's soccer league out there, but do you really think that they're making that much money? Do you really think that professional lacrosse players are making that much money?
or women, even
No.
women basketball players.
Right, even the WNBA, yeah, there's definitely an earnings gap where, and that's not to say that football and basketball players shouldn't be able to get the endorsements and everything when they're in school as well. That's, everybody should have those opportunities, but you're not going to get endorsements if you play a lower profile sport at a lower profile university. What you can get, however, in, the sake of fairness and all things being equal, is money to get paid to be, whether it's, you're not necessarily getting paid to play the sport, but you're getting paid other things, like give them flex dollars, don't make them pay for meals. There's all these ways that we can
Yeah,
be
and
supporting our student athletes that we just don't do right now because the NCAA does not want to lose that power that they have held for centuries over these kids.
yeah, it's like, I mean, it's like the greatest example you ever hear is like the coach that gets suspended for like, hey, Marilee, here's $50, go get dinner for yourself,
Yep. Yeah.
and
There,
that's a serious NCAA violation.
Yep. There was a great it was in the, not the You documentary, the
The
Michigan one. There was a
Meet the
great
Bagman.
scene. No, this was an ESPN 30 for 30 on the, I can't believe I'm blanking on the Chris Webber Michigan team.
Yeah,
Fab Four, maybe
the
something
Fat
like that.
Five.
Yeah, the
The
Fab
Fat Five.
Five. Yeah. So there was a great, very poignant scene in that documentary where Chris Webber is walking. I don't know if it was a coach or who he was talking to, and he walks by and there's his jersey being sold for like $60 in a school store, and here's Chris Webber's like, they're selling my jersey. They're making all this money. I can't even afford to eat lunch. Like, when you see something like that, and I understand that what those players did, was in violation of boosters and the kind of things that you're allowed to do. But when you look at the reason why players have to do that, you should not be a college athlete. You should not be anybody. And looking at your name and likeness being sold, and you can't make money off of it. And at the same time, they don't even give you money to get food if you are eating outside of the cafeteria window. Like, say your game runs over or you get stuck in traffic and you get back to the university, you can't just go to the cafeteria and get your meal plan. You're out of luck. So for there to not be, whether you would call it flex dollars or, additional meal spending, however they would kind of say that, that's something that would seem so simple. They don't have to do everything at once to improve the experience of a student athlete, but they need to start doing some things. And I think this, the Supreme Court case is going to be that first step in acknowledging and understanding that these individuals should not have to decline endorsements or risk their eligibility. I think that's absolutely ridiculous that that was ever the case in the first place. But to go from there and to be able to start treating student athletes more like regular
Well,
students, in the sense where they need to have these opportunities. They need to be able to, it's not their fault that the game ran over and the cafeteria is closed and they don't have money to, go to Subway and get a sandwich. Like, it's just, it's weird and it's unfair, and it's almost it's almost unfathomable at this point that we're still having this conversation, that the NCAA is still refusing to budge on this issue, because I think even the most stalwart opponents of paying college athletes have come around in the
A
last
lot of them.
decade or so. Like, you're losing support for the people that believe that college athletes don't deserve to have some sort of monetary compensation.
Well, I mean, we're being nice. We're mentioning like Miami, Michigan. Yeah, those are big programs in very affluent sections of their cities. Like, I mean, I don't know if you, I doubt you've ever been to Coral Gables or Florida, but it's really posh. It's really white. It's really suburban. Same with Ann Arbor, Michigan. But like, go to Temple or something like that, or the University of Cincinnati is a great example where it's in probably one of the roughest parts of Cincinnati.
Mm,
I mean, you just like personal safety.
right.
Like it's like this thing like the greatest example I could think of, even though I mean it's an extreme example, is Jimmer Fredette. I mean, I don't know if you remember that March Madness when he just became like a national celebrity for
Yep.
2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't go to class, like, or can't even go back to his dorm room because he was so popular on BYU
Right.
campus. It's like you pay. Like, oh, these guys pay for the frame. Like, did he? He went to BYU because that's. I mean, yeah, it's a powerhouse for football.
Right. Right. They didn't know anything about, like, no one knew anything about their basketball program prior to that run.
I mean, it's like those small schools in college basketball tournaments. I mean, BYU is an extreme because that's a pretty big school, but like the small schools, when one guy makes the game-winning shot, and you see it every year.
Right.
Does that kid ever get privacy on that campus again, especially if he's an underclassman?
Yeah, unlikely.
And he's got to suffer for it. It's a punishment to be famous.
Yeah, and I think that's the best way to look at it.
It's like, yeah, can he afford an apartment? I don't know. Just so he can get away from everyone. I mean, he has the right to be, because he's a student athlete. He should have the right to be a student too.
Right. Right, but the fame that comes at the college level is not rewarded the same way that fame is at the professional level, because it can't be. These individuals, like you said, they're getting punished for being really good at what they do and becoming a standout overnight, because the way that, athletics are now, you don't have to be in BYU. You don't have to be a student there. You don't have to live in and around the community. If you have a television, you could have been watching that game. You would have watched him become a national star overnight. And when you think about it from that angle, yet at the same time, he was a national star, sure, but he was still a student athlete who had to go to class, who was not getting paid to be a national star. There were no TV commercials, there were no endorsement deals, there was none of that. And, he's a case of somebody who probably peaked in college. I know he played in the NBA for a little bit, I think.
I don't even know if he got
still there.
I don't know if he was even a walk-on at BYU.
Oh yeah, I don't know that.
But look at the kids who are walk-ons there. They are paying their own way. They're not being a scholarship player. It's like, right. Yeah, these kids are busting their ass to get like for nothing.
They don't get anything.
Oh yeah, and here's your college bill.
Yep. Yeah, you, at the end of the day, you get the bill the same as any of those other students, because you're still taking out loans, you're still, funding your education one way or the other. And when it's all said and done, if you don't become a star, if you don't go to the NFL, if you don't go to the NBA, if you don't get that, rookie deal, you're still going to have a hard time paying your loans like anybody else. Like, your college celebrity is not going to pay for you to not have interest rates, to not have all these loan payments for the next 10 years after you graduate. It's just not.
Yeah. I mean, we can talk about this for 2 more hours, and we probably barely glaze the surface. I mean, of it all.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely an issue where, we're obviously passionate about it, and, I'm sure there's a lot of people who, like I said, at this point, if you still don't believe that student athletes should get paid at this point, then I don't know what's going to convince you.
I think you're delusional. I'll flat out say it. Because it's like, I mean, it ruins the integrity of the game. No. Like I said, this has nothing to do with athletics, ironically enough.
Right.
But like, moving on, like, So yeah, NHL Stanley Cup, I mean, it's just cruising right along. I mean, it might be even over tonight before the NBA finals even start.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, Tampa Bay just came out and was like, yeah, we're retaining our championship.
it's crazy because it looked, the Canadians, they looked like they were going to have a shot. And, everybody's always like, oh, a Canadian team, they're going to win again. But Tampa Bay is, I don't know
They're
what they did to that team in like the last 5 years, but wow.
well, you got enough stars, and your goaltenders playing lights out. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah, that's very true.
And also, they're paying their goaltender not that much. I mean, relatively speaking, I mean, like Carey Price is the high-paid goaltender in the NHL. I can tell you off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's making like $12.3 million a year. Because,
Jeez.
well, Grant, he is like the third best goalie in the world.
Oh yeah, he's definitely
phenomenal.
worth what they pay him.
But the fact that the goalie for Tampa Bay, I cannot say his name. It's like Wassily and all that. It's a Russian name. I cannot say it.
Mm.
We'll just call him the Tampa Bay goalie for just for simplicity's sake. He only makes like $4.5 or $5 million a year.
Jeez.
So I mean, and he's locked in long term. I think he's got like 6 more years on his contract. Like they got him long term, so they don't have to worry about paying a starting goalie who's dominant to say the least.
Right.
Who's probably, like I said, in the top 5 goalies in the NHL. And then you had one hell of an offense on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Tampa Bay is, I mean, I said, they went from being, nothing to a so-so team, and then just almost like out of nowhere.
Well, got good, then got bad again.
And then out of nowhere became the best team in the NHL by a mile.
Yeah, it's like, I mean,
this isn't close right now.
This isn't like, was it 10 years ago when it was the LA Kings came out of utterly nowhere? Because like, this isn't a team that was like,
oh yeah,
we had Flyers, a good goal.
Flyers South, as we called them, because they won with Mike Richards and Jeff Carter after leaving.
I mean, like I said, this is not the LA Rangers were like 10 years ago. They had a really good goalie. Then all of a sudden, hey, their offense decided to explode in the playoffs.
Right.
This was just a dominant team. This was probably the second best team in hockey behind Colorado for the regular season. I mean, it was like tooth and nail. I mean, this was like 1-1A, and then all of a sudden, like Colorado gets knocked out. It's like, well, who's going to win? Well, Tampa Bay is the defending champion. Why not them? Then all of a sudden, hey. Now, like, we're 3 games into the Stanley Cup Finals, and they're up 3-0 already on Montreal, who's a very good team, even though, like...
Yeah, and it's very hard to repeat in any sport.
Let alone hockey.
As a championship, winner. So, I don't even know the last time a team has repeated as Stanley Cup champions.
I will give you the answer.
I feel like we'd have to go back a decent way.
I think it might even be Tampa Bay, even. I'll let you know in 2 seconds. Montreal's winning 1-0, by the way.
Look at that. They're not going to let themselves get swept.
By the way, the last team to repeat was Pittsburgh Penguins, 2016-2017.
No, that was actually a lot more recent than I thought.
That's what I was going with. I've gone like before that. I'm looking before that.
I erased that one from my
I can understand that. I mean, before that, it went like Chicago, LA, Chicago, LA. Chicago won 3 cups in the 2010s.
Wow. Yeah, they were a really good team for a while.
And before that, the last team to repeat was Detroit, 97 and 98. That would have been my guess.
Yeah, that was more what I was thinking of, was like the 90s.
I think, because I think the one with the Penguins was when Marian Hossa decided to switch teams from Chicago to get his cup. Because he went from Pittsburgh to Chicago to get his cup and lost to Pittsburgh, rather, sorry. And like he lost for Chicago. Then he went back to Pittsburgh and finally got his cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, and before that was the Penguins again, 92, 91. I mean, this is not a frequent thing.
No, because it's, as I said, it's very difficult in any sport, and like you mentioned, especially in hockey, to repeat as champions.
Because injuries happen so much more in that sport, in playoffs in that sport than any other sport. Like, I remember the 2006 Sabres team, who was the best team in hockey that year. Stop laughing. But this team was President's Cup winner like But then when they got to the playoffs, they just started losing defensemen one after another. They basically had guys basically playing with broken shin bones out there playing defense because they were blocking so many shots.
Yeah.
And they just ran out of defensemen and they couldn't keep up, and they ultimately lost in the Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals to Carolina, who absolutely won. And if, honest to God, if they beat Carolina, I clearly said Buffalo won the Stanley Cup that year.
Yeah.
They were head and heels above everyone, and they just kept on just getting hurt. But yeah, it's just like, so the odds of a repeat are so slim. And like I said, I didn't think Pittsburgh repeated that recently either. So, and like I said, the updates, like they were down. They're down right now. Tampa Bay is, because there was also a report that the mayor of Tampa actually said like you should throw the game so you can have
I heard that.
Well, I think another thing they're probably thinking about is like, I don't think they're gonna have their game on Wednesday night now though. If they go to Game 5, because Hurricane, what the hell is it? That stupid.
Oh yeah, Hurricane Elsa.
Yeah, I'm like, what's that stupid girl from like Frozen? I could not think of her name for a second.
Yeah, that's a good way to remember.
Hurricane Elsa is hitting Cuba as we speak right now, and it's supposed to going through the Gulf of Mexico next.
Yeah.
And if it hits Tampa, who the hell knows? I mean, they may have to move the game out of Tampa and put it elsewhere.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, they could always just delay it, depending on how long the hurricane's supposed to be in town, because it is Florida during hurricane season. So it's not like it's not like they're strangers to this,
No, not at all. And like I said, maybe they can just or maybe just Tampa Bay comes back and wins tonight, and they can just delay the parade for a week.
Right. Yeah, that's probably more likely of what they would do.
Yeah, which would be 1,000 times safer and all that. So yeah, that's that. And let's see what's next. I'm literally reading off the script, guys. Just bear with me. So the NBA finals are starting finally. I think was it tomorrow night they start?
I think so. Tonight? Yeah, there was a pretty big gap in between.
Well, between one game going to 6 games and like this.
Yeah, it just feels like Phoenix won like a year ago, even though that series did not go 4 games. But for whatever reason, it just feels like
they were way years ahead.
They've been in the finals for maybe it was
weeks.
Just because everybody kind of knew after Kawhi got injured and he wasn't going to play that there really wasn't a chance for the Clippers. But kudos to them. They got far. They did better than I think a lot of people expected them to do. But Phoenix right now this year is just an unstoppable buzzsaw. Like, you want to talk about team of destiny? The Phoenix Suns are a team of destiny. Chris Paul is getting his ring.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think it's going to be in fewer games than we think. I wouldn't say it's Phoenix in 6. I'm saying it's either going to be a sweep or it's going to be 4. It's going to be 5.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a sweep because Atlanta gave Milwaukee more trouble than I expected, because I originally thought that one was going to be a sweep. I was thinking Milwaukee in 4, maybe even Milwaukee in 5.
Giannis blowing his knee out didn't hurt.
Him getting injured did not help, and his status is definitely going to, help dictate how many games this one might go. I haven't heard anything as far as, if he'll play, if he's going to be 100%, whatever the case might be. But, big men in their knees, it's a tough thing to get around. It's one of the major concerns that you have with a guy being 7 foot tall is they're going to get injured. They're going to hurt their knees. So, his status is definitely worth paying attention to. But even before he got injured, Atlanta still was giving Milwaukee some trouble. So I don't know, like the Bucks team that I was expecting to come out in that series, I saw glimpses of it, but not really a lot. To still say that Phoenix would sweep, though, I don't know. It's very difficult to sweep. It's very difficult to sweep in the finals. I know a lot of people are saying like they want it to go 7 just because more good basketball. But no, I don't think even if Giannis was healthy. If Giannis was healthy, I would probably give them 5 or 6, or 6, not 5. 5 is what I'm looking at without Giannis. I think they'll win 1. I think they'll steal 1 at home. Just, by hook or by crook, essentially, just by the nature of being on their home court. I think they end up winning 1. But, this is Phoenix series to win, hands down. And if they sweep, I won't be surprised. But my personal pick is Phoenix in 5.
Yeah, I'm going to fix it 5 as well, especially if they don't have Giannis, because like you said, I think Milwaukee just steals one somewhere.
Yeah.
But like it's like I think I've made the joke so far, but the coolest thing about this Final Four this year was like it was two teams in the West that have never won it,
Right.
and then the last time the Hawks have won an NBA title, but we have to go back to like last time they won the time I think they won the finals because it was when the TV was still black and white, and
Mm.
Bob Pettit was your power forward for the St. Louis Hawks, and the starting center for the Milwaukee Bucks the last time they were in the NBA Finals, Mr. Lou Alcindor. For anyone that does not know who Lou Alcindor is, you should look up like LA Lakers history. You'll probably know who he is really quickly. He's better known to everyone as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That's the last time the Bucks were in NBA Finals. So it's like, so you got a team that never won versus
Right.
teams that haven't won in 50 years.
And that's great. That is
It's what we talked about last time with parity.
Yes, parity. The NBA needs parity. For this to be the first, I forget how many years they said it was, but it was might even be 10, which sounds crazy to me, but who knows? That this is the first NBA finals in X number of years, no LeBron, no Steph. And to
I think it's
about
like
it that
10 or
way,
11. Yeah.
it just seems crazy. Like
What?
you lived through it, so you knew that there were these two teams that were on top and that were head and shoulders better than everyone else. But to kind of have it truncated down to like a specific number of times that we haven't had a finals without one of these guys in it, let alone both of these guys. It's crazy to think about. But it's also exciting. Obviously the Lakers, injuries was a big part of the reason that kept them out. Steph almost single-handedly got the Warriors into the postseason, and who knows, what they would have been able to do when they got here. This postseason is definitely a tale of injuries. I think we saw a lot of things that we probably wouldn't have seen if so many big names hadn't gone down at the times that they did. I mean, you look at the Nets, prime example. They were supposed to be the team. Like there was no chance anybody else was going to have in the East when it came to the Nets, but the Nets ended up having some huge, significant injuries, and that impacted their playoff chances. The Clippers, like we mentioned, Kawhi Leonard, that impacted their playoff chances. So you look at that, and people are pointing to the shortened off season as a big part of the reason why a lot of the guys are just starting to go down now, because their bodies they did not have as much recovery time in between the end of last season and the start of this season as they normally did, because of the way that everything got shook up because of COVID. So you're definitely seeing that, and the impact of that on the finals has contributed to some of these other surprise things going on. But at the same token, take nothing away from the Phoenix Suns, because Chris Paul missed several games due to COVID protocol. They did not have their star the same way that the Nets didn't have theirs and the Clippers didn't have theirs. All these teams kind of going through this. The Bucks now missing Giannis, and they still managed to win because they have an incredible team, top to bottom. Devin Booker, I said this before, I'll say it again. He is a star in the making. This is his coming out party. Everybody was talking about Trae Young and how this was Trae Young's, coming out party, and that very well may be true. This was a great postseason for him. But Devin Booker is the unheralded star of that Phoenix team. They are not where they are without that kid.
Oh, easily. I mean, and you got this team's just blossoming at the right time.
Yes.
The team is not just him.
Yep, everybody is clicking on all cylinders right now, and that's the key to success. That's the key to a championship. And I love nothing more than seeing a team win their first title.
And like I said, the cool thing, not even let's just even forget about like LeBron and Steph Curry for a second. I mean, this is like an outlier where it's like you might have a team win its first NBA title of all time, or a team that's won its second.
Right, exactly. Not a player that's looking for their second title, which seems to have been the case, second, third, fourth title, even when it came to Steph and LeBron. Like you were watching players chase rings. You weren't watching teams chase history.
Yeah, I mean, it's been cool seeing the Nets win because they would have been their first time as well.
Yeah, but the Nets are one of the examples of what basketball needs to get away from.
Yeah, I agree with that. My point though is just the fact that it'd been cool to see.
Oh
like
yeah,
a team,
the first time part would have been nice, but I in good conscience can't root for any super team that
it's
is
crazy.
put together by mega money spending.
Right, and like I said, it was like, I mean, it was kind of like I was gonna say too, is like the last time we saw a team. I mean, as much as you want to criticize it, the last team, for the outlier teams, the two teams I can think of are the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the first time the Spurs won the title was like one of the Spurs Knicks, like way back in 2000.
Mm.
And they were just like outliers. Like, wait, what are these two teams doing here?
Right, because they broke basketball's hierarchy of the Lakers, the Celtics, the Pistons, the Bulls, like all of these teams that you were so used to seeing every year. Even when the Warriors came up at first, like that was a great story. That was a great run. What was annoying about it was they never lost. Like, okay, you got one, and then you got two, and then you got three, and then you're constantly in the title picture, so parity is important, especially, I know basketball, they have moved away from that. The NBA wants super teams. They want a star-driven league. They want each team to have a guy who, is bigger than the team. But I don't think ultimately that is the strategy that's going to be good for basketball, because as great as those superstars are, people do get tired of seeing the same teams winning and in the playoffs all the time, because they just have a bigger budget than other teams. And that's kind of what it comes down to. They're more willing to, deal with that salary cap, work that ceiling, than some other teams are and can even afford to do, moving contracts around. And not everybody can afford to give LeBron James the kind of money that the Lakers did. They had nothing around him for a long time, but, of course, as we all know, they won the championship last year, so they managed to figure it out. But that's part of the
Anthony
problem
Davis, that doesn't hurt.
That's the thing. That's part of the problem with a star-driven league is bigger markets. Like, you don't see it. It's not as impactful as baseball, because baseball, there is no cap. Like, at least in basketball and hockey and football, there's a line, and almost an imaginary line that if you cross it, you owe a lot of money. So nobody really wants to be in the penalty. They don't want to be paying the luxury tax.
Yeah, I'm literally just looking at the champions, like, listed by team. Like, here's the teams that have won one NBA title. Okay, Cleveland Cavaliers, the Atlanta Hawks. They did it as the St. Louis Hawks. The Washington Wizards, who did it as the Washington Bullets. Just to refresh you, remember me. The Oklahoma City Thunder technically have a championship, but it was when they were the Seattle. That's the Seattle Supersonics. Let me get that team right. The Portland Blazers, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Dallas Mavericks, and the Baltimore Bullets, and the Sacramento Kings and the Toronto Raptors, and that's it.
Wow.
By comparison, here's the teams that have won multiple. Okay, the Houston Rockets have won 2. The New York Knicks have won 2. The Miami Heat have won 3. The Detroit Pistons have won 3. Philadelphia 76ers have won 3. I'm surprised that number's a little not higher, to be honest with you. But for one reason or another, just like because like the teams were so good. I think they ran into the Lakers and like the Celtics a lot in the 80s. San Antonio Spurs won 5. Chicago Bulls won 6. The Golden State Warriors have won 6. Boston Celtics have won 17. So are the LA Lakers. The LA Lakers have been in the NBA. The LA Lakers and the Boston Celtics have been in the NBA Finals combined 53 times. Just think about that for 1 second.
Yep. Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, and how many times have they been? I mean, how many championships have there been?
Yeah, we talked about this last week. It's what, like half?
It's over half. It's like
it's like over half.
I think it's like 62% or something like that. But anyway, yeah, it's just crazy to look at the numbers. It's like these two teams have just been there the whole time, and there's like catch us if you can, which is not always the best way to handle the NBA, but like sports. But I guess it's what it is. But like I said, I'm glad to see parity. Like they said, we're gonna get a champion we haven't seen in the Cerner is 1971, so it's been 50 years since the team, like the Bucks, have won the championship. I mean, that's mind-numbing. Like I said,
right?
That's Oscar Robertson and Lou Alcindor on the Bucks. And like I said, the last time the Suns were in the NBA Finals, it was like Thunder's like Dan Marley, it was Charles Barkley, it was Kevin Johnson, Goddick, and that. Like, a decent amount of the team, like Tom Chambers. It was a pretty stacked team. But the problem is they ran into the 1993 Chicago Bulls, and the Chicago Bulls were like, yeah, we're running you over.
Yeah. Yeah, no one stood a chance.
And yet, that was the year I was thinking, I think the Suns actually had the best record in basketball. I think they won like 61 wins that year or something. It was 60 or 61. They had like I said, they had an absurdly good team too. They just had Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
I mean, they had the Bulls had the best. This is back when the cap wasn't a thing at all in NBA basketball. I mean, Jordan was making like $40 million a year. They brought in like Jerry Buss Jerry Krause, sorry, not Jerry Buss. Jerry Buss ran the Lakers. Had he brought in Tony Kuchar, coach. I mean, if you watch, there's a Deep Dream Team documentary. They even mentioned him because he was the best player in Europe. That was under like 25.
Yeah.
And the Dream Team just beat the shit out of him. Like, it's literally like Michael Jordan and Sky Pim just guarded him for the entire first game versus Croatia, and they just mauled him. Because oh, this kid's coming over to play with us. We'll see.
Yeah.
That was basically the gist of it. It was just it's like you would not know these guys were going to be soon to be like teammates and win 4 more NBA titles together. So yeah, that's starting soon, which is gonna be. I'm actually turning to watch it because it's like just for the history sake of it all.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Let's see what else we got. I know. Like I said, we have a white show tonight. Thank God. Oh yeah, we can talk about how Vince McMahon. If you listen to if you listen to Mary Lee's request, not really request, but just the fact that
I told you.
Yeah,
I told you he listens to us.
He doesn't listen to he doesn't watch AEW. He doesn't watch WCW. I hope he doesn't watch WCW.
That's where he gets his ideas from. He watches old episodes of WCW.
Well, there's worse things. That's not true. God, I promised we have to do live, since we both have the network, we have to do 2000s pro wrestling in a review. Just to have Mary Lee go totally gray by the end of watching one episode a week, just so she goes loses her goddamn mind, which is gonna be great TV.
Yeah, that's what would happen.
Yeah, it really would. I mean, but yeah. Anyway. At least everyone says, "Oh yeah, WWF's WWE is so much worse than WCW 2000." No, it's not. It's at least they make some logical sense. It's WCW 2000. No. That's the worst thing. That is the worst thing in wrestling history. And it's not close. I don't care what it says about this year's WWF. I don't watch it. I admit that, but it can't be worse than 2000 WCW.
I think very little can be.
I agree. I mean, but yeah. So like I said, so they are ramping up a summer tour. It's official now. And they did add the Garden for a SmackDown. I didn't see the date. I think it's in July. I think it's late July, early August.
Yeah, I think
it's before AEW goes to Flushing. I know that.
Of course it is.
It's nice that Madison Square can accommodate events like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he owns the arena and has been running it forever.
Well, yeah, between him and his dad, who ran probably for the last 60 years. I wonder if they even have to pay for rent for the building.
Okay, so it's September 10th.
Oh, so it's
basically a week, maybe 2 weeks before AEW show. So
it's just to stick the knife in a little.
Oh yeah.
I mean, good for Vince. He's at least he shows he's not total. I think Triple H must have said something Vince, you gotta get the Garden now.
So I don't even know if that would be a Triple H thing, because this is an old school classic.
Even Kevin Dunn probably said something.
But this is classic Vince McMahon. I don't think he needed anybody to tell him, "Hey Vince, AEW is running on this day. You might want to do something about it." As much as he probably does not watch their product, I'm sure he is well aware. I'm sure he is well aware of the ongoings of what they're doing. And when he found out that they were going to be in New York, I'm sure his first call was to those who run the venue at MSG and basically say, "Hey, we haven't been here since 2019. Obviously with the pandemic, they couldn't go anywhere, but we want to come back. We want to add you to our tour."
I would have not made it a SmackDown.
would have made a pay-per-view.
Absolutely, I would have.
So
Or have it,
save it. Well, the only problem is there's no pay-per-views in between whatever they're doing. I don't even know if they're doing
between
a pay-per-view in
SummerSlam and
September.
I don't even know. I don't know. Between sites between SummerSlam and whatever it's supposed to be, just have it be like very like they make it a special event.
They could have done a super card, like a brand invitational kind of thing. So you'd have
Yeah.
wrestlers from both programs there.
Or have it like a Raw vs SmackDown special.
True, but at the same time, them doing SmackDown there is probably the next best thing to doing a pay-per-view, because right now SmackDown is far and away their better product.
You do the head of the table.
Roman Reigns in the Garden
as the heel champion.
As the heel champion is a big deal. I mean, if I'm them, I start the program with The Rock right there. You find a way to get The Rock to Madison Square Garden and have him do magic.
And you create a year and was it 5-month program?
Yeah, be a little over a year and change.
Like, I mean, if anyone can do it, it's Vince.
Yeah. So that would be, my way of doing it, because there's going to be something big, or there's going to be, a big return or a big debut, or this is going to be treated. It's billed as a SmackDown, but it's going to be treated as a SmackDown after Mania kind of show. It's going to have a lot of big moments.
I'd say bigger than that. I would say it'd be treated like SummerSlam Light, basically. I think it's going to be like the third biggest thing of the year.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a big deal for WWE, and of course they're now running the New York market before AEW. Does that mean that AEW is still not going to sell out their show? I don't know, but I think it is very interesting and very intentional. The show is not until September 10th. Tickets go on sale Friday, July 9th.
Well,
do you know when tickets go on sale for AEW Grand Slam?
I do not know.
I'll tell you in a second.
It's probably like the week after.
They go on sale July 16th. So
I call that one.
You now have, and again,
100%. You have a week jump.
You can't tell me that announcement of when the tickets went on sale is not 100% intentional either.
Oh God, yeah.
Because now people have a choice. People can say, I was going to go to AEW because WWE wasn't coming to New York, so I chose to go to AEW. Now people have a choice. Now they can say, most famous arena in the world for SmackDown, pretty cool opportunity to see wrestling at a tennis arena for AEW. So it's going to be very interesting to
you'll see a lot of similar faces of both.
Ticket sales go. Oh, you'll definitely see people go to both, but you'll also see people who otherwise were going to go to AEW now go to Madison Square Garden because they were only going to go to AEW because they wanted to see live wrestling.
Yeah, but we also see people that go to the Garden because it's the Garden too.
That's the other thing. That will be a sold-out Madison Square Garden.
There will be so many people in the faces that you'll see in the front. Like, yeah, I know that guy from TV from 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Or even longer. It's just like I think they paid tribute to one of the guys. It's been to every Madison Square Garden show since God knows when.
Oh, did they?
I think Triple H did. I think I forgot his name, but it's I think he's been to every MSG show in WF history since I want to say the mid 70s. He's in every camera shot you ever see of a Garden show.
That's pretty incredible.
I mean, I don't know how he's got the money, but unless he's unless he works at the Garden, he's got a fake. He's hey,
yeah,
I get the show. Hey, I want tickets to the wrestling show. That's all you got to pay me. I mean, if it's the Garden in the 70s, I could see it happening. That's tickets for life. I'll work here,
yeah.
And I'll work for free, and then I'll get a side job somewhere.
Right. Yeah, you never know. Wouldn't be that surprising.
Not at all, especially like I said, with the Garden back in the 70s, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm thinking what else? Yeah. So it's so yeah, Vince is actually counter programming, but we'll see what he does. It'll be really, really interesting to see what he does.
Yeah, I mean, it's even if AEW wasn't running a show, I could still see this being a big show for WWE, but they know what they have, and it's kind of like they had the benefit of waiting for AEW to announce their date, for WWE to announce their date. So like WWE wins there. However, AEW now has the benefit of getting to see that show. So they can adjust. They can, depending on their booking or whatever they want to do, based on what WWE does. So, it is definitely a who strikes first kind of thing. You're going to watch what the other company, the opposition does, and you're going to say, okay, we can do it better, and we will do it better.
But the thing though is like with that, it's still the whole like old age WCW WWE thing with like I'm still baffled that New Japan and Ring of Honor got the Garden. I mean, I can't imagine the rent they must have paid for it.
Oh, I'm sure it was exorbitant,
to say the least. But I was saying like, because if you watch like WCW Nitro, they went to New York City.
Yeah.
But they were at the Nassau Coliseum.
Right, because the Garden was WWE's. No. Well, I mean, I kind of get where the Garden's coming from, because WWE really was not giving them, they were doing some house shows, some live events, but Barclays Center was getting SummerSlam, and, they weren't treating the Garden the way that the iconic nature of the Garden deserved to be treated. So I get it. I get the Garden. If it wasn't like an exclusive agreement, and maybe they had it at one point in time, maybe it expired, or whatever kind of the case might have been. But I can understand where the Garden would have been coming from, where New Japan comes to them and says, "Hey, we're going to run for the first time in the United States. We're going to do this huge show. We're going to guarantee you buys." And I'm pretty sure that show sold out very quickly.
Yeah.
So, the Garden, they got to do what they got to do to keep their venue open.
Well, I'm thinking the last time we really had a big name show at the Garden was probably the Hall of Fame induction. Like, it was
a long time.
I think it was like 2013 or 2014. Whatever year, Foley, Bruno, all them went in. Grant, that's gigantic. No doubt, but it was not a gigantic wrestling show. Like, they've never done a WrestleMania there since 2020. Right.
And they stopped running shows there every year, which is another thing. They had at one point in time run at least, I think it was like 2, maybe 3 shows a year at the Garden. Then they, went it down to 2, and then it was down to 1. And then there were years that would go by where they didn't run anything at the Garden. They started throwing a house show here and there. But that's not.
No.
No, that's not even close. It's not the same.
Well, like I said, we mentioned how they don't go to Philadelphia. They haven't gone to Philadelphia. They don't go to the WWF start the home ground for a beverage for Vince McMahon Sr. and in the original crew. I mean, Rochester, New York, where I'm from, is a big stopping point. Not just because it's a northeastern territory city.
Right.
It's because that's where Gorilla Monsoon was born. So that's why you'll see if it's funny I didn't put two together till about 5 years ago. Why do we have so many title changes in Rochester? It's not a huge market.
Right.
Then I'm oh right, Gino Morello, aka Gorilla Monsoon's from here because he went to the same high school as my dad. He just graduated 5 years before my dad got into high school.
Yeah.
So it's oh right, if it's Monsoon's hometown, they're going to treat it like royalty.
For sure.
I mean, they're gonna say they don't care about Syracuse, they don't care about Buffalo. They'll be hey, it's Rochester because they said it's Gino's town. It's
right.
It's like Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Something big's always gonna happen in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Sorry, Philadelphia, but it's the truth. It's because it's where Bruno Sammartino grew up after he moved from Italy, and you're not gonna mess with that. Even when they were on speaking terms, they still made every time they went to Pittsburgh is a gigantic deal. Because it's Bruno's hometown. Same with Boston. It was the same with like I said, Philadelphia. It was maybe it's the running joke I have where Vince McMahon thinks it's funny to screw over the city of Philadelphia. It's entirely possible.
It would not surprise me.
I mean, they threw Snow at Santa. We're gonna screw them. Okay, not really, but stuff like that. It's just the running joke is everything. If they want to put a bad show on in the Northeast, they'll put it in Philly.
Yeah. Hey, we've had some good ones. We got the first ever Women's Royal Rumble. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, you also had The Rock getting a standing booing.
We know
And yet,
2015.
and that's the night they should have turned Roman.
Yeah, but
And they could.
it almost it's one of those things where you look back on it and you say, if they had done it then, would it have been as good as it is now? And I don't think that's the
I don't
case.
know.
I think Roman Reigns had to grow as a performer in order for this
I think
tribal
the
chief head of the table
I think the
character
break helped
to
him.
be as good as it is. I think it did too. Absence makes
Although,
the heart grow fonder, as they say.
or you could the only way you could have made it better is if Rock comes out, congratulates him, and just spears the living shit out of the Rock.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would have to be something like that. It can't be like.
But they still then would have had to build the character where he's giving promos, or the Paul Heyman part of it is integral to this character
It's
working.
weird how.
And Paul Heyman was not available at that time. He was firmly with Brock Lesnar.
But the weird thing though is like Paul Heyman only works for seems like it's for the big ass kickers, for lack of better words, because it didn't work for Punk. It didn't work for Curtis Axel. Who was the other? They didn't have like one other. Oh, Cesaro.
Yeah.
Like those three, it just didn't work. For one reason or another, it just
didn't work because they tried to replicate what Heyman has with Lesnar, and the reason why I'm convinced the Roman Reigns thing worked is because they didn't do that. They didn't go to that same well. It's not, Paul is the talker and Roman is the ass kicker. No, in this version, Roman is also the talker and the ass kicker. Like, yeah, Paul talks, but he's not the same advocate that he was for Brock Lesnar.
Well, I think what helps too is the way I saw when Heyman joined with Punk, I saw that as like Heenan and Bockwinkel, where like you don't really need Bobby Heenan there because Nick Bockwinkel can talk and talk and talk. Same with Phil Brooks, CM Punk, whatever you want to call him, and they could have done it. But for one reason or another, I don't know if it was just a punishment to Paul and then to Phil himself. But like I said, for one reason or another, CM Punk and Paul Heyman didn't work.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. And Cesaro, that's just, I don't know. But like Curtis Axel, I mean, I think he had impossible shoes to fill. I mean, it's not even the fact that your dad's an all-time great, your grandfather's an all-time great too. I mean, not everyone can do that. I mean, the only person that can do it is practically The Rock. I mean, like, it sucks for people like that are third generation stars. Like, I feel bad for The Rock's daughter, who's still, I believe, training. It's like you
still
have
training. Yep.
so much shoes to fill. I mean, like, he's the only one that did it because I think he just became so larger than life. Like, I mean, he became like, I don't want to use the Michael Jordan of pro wrestling, but he kind of did.
Yeah.
Where he's bigger than the sport. Like, I mean, he was only wrestled actively full time for like 4 years.
And that's the crazy thing about it is he became such a huge star, but he doesn't have the crazy long career that some of these other guys have had.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, he's became he's more like, I want to say he's the Andre the Giant of this generation's wrestling.
Yeah.
He's just a special attraction anytime you see him. I'm lucky enough, I've seen him like a dozen times. Like, I've seen him like 4 times. And one time as Rocky Maivia, the white meat baby face forced down our throats. Like the Rocky sucks chance was one of the first place things that happened here. So it's like, and he was still the white meat baby face. It's just like, yeah, it's like The Rock. Like, literally, he was full time. He started in like late '96. His end of his full time run ended in when he faced Goldberg in 2003. So it's 7 years.
Yeah.
Which is insane to think, and he should be like a first ballot Hall of Famer for WWE.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're gonna put him in I think they'll put him in the year that he faces Roman.
Yep, the year he does the program, that's when they'll put him in.
As they should. I mean, like, put him in Hollywood. Why the hell not?
Yeah.
And make him the headliner. Like, this year, have him when they do to go to Dallas. Yeah, you better make Taker it. They better make Taker the headliner. But I digress. It's just like, but anyway, like, so it's like, yeah, it's like all these guys that are like third generation wrestlers. Like, Chavo Guerrero couldn't escape it.
Right.
I mean, I don't blame.
He was good in his own right. Like, he was not bad at all. But when that is your, family line that you have to live up to, even you being good, is not good enough because
I
they were
think,
great.
I mean, I think the reason why Chavo didn't succeed truly was not, I mean, he was, like I said, he was very good. Like, he was great. He really was, because he could wrestle with anyone at any time. But his problem was his uncle died so young.
Right.
I mean, Eddie, it's like, I mean, if I ask people to name three members of the Guerrero family, they probably could name Eddie and maybe Chavo and Chavo Sr. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think that's probably where most people would go.
I mean, it's like what we've run into with like Natty Neidhart. I mean, like, she's phenomenal, but like her family legacy is so big, and she's done her own thing, which is great. Like, I'd say she's probably on par with her dad, and it's not a knock on her. It's just like you've got an Uncle Brett, you've got an Uncle Owen, you've got your Uncle Davy Boy Smith, where it's like you've got a huge uphill climb to fight. Well, it's like, I mean, I think it was like Ted DiBiase even said, it's like I had an impossibility going accepting the shoes of my dad, because my dad died so young. It's like everyone remembers my dad. It's like just the legacy of all these guys. It's like, yes, it might get your foot in the door, it may give you the opportunity, but you've got so much more pressure on you. It's same with every sport. I know we tangented a bit, but it's the same thing though. It's like, it's wrestling. Like, I mean, we need to talk about it occasionally. We used to be really good at it. We don't do it as much anymore.
Yeah.
And with a slower news week, minus the 2 deaths, I mean, we don't have much. I mean, like, the NBA Finals is starting. I think NHL Stanley Cup Finals are possibly ending tonight.
Yeah, it's very unlikely that, you know, the next time we get on air, there will be a hockey game to talk about. It will more be talking about
the end of the NBA season.
How the Lightning won the championship, and probably for the NBA too, honestly.
I mean, I mean, if the Suns keep on going the way they're going, gosh, yeah. And like I said, like a couple of things. Let's see what Dale said. I mean, I mentioned the NIL. I mean, we did, and like, I mean, I'm gonna throw in, because I can't help myself. The other thing. Oh yeah, Trevor Lawrence signing his rookie deal. He's like the second quarterback of the draft class to finally sign his rookie deal.
Yeah, I wonder what took so long.
I really don't know, because it's like, it's basically nowadays the contracts are like, here's the contract, take it or leave it.
Right.
Well, it's probably the offsetting language.
Yeah, some like little thing here and there, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I've got like, and I mean, he's not the last first round pick to sign, by the way, in case you're wondering. Do you want a list of the people that haven't signed yet? Because I don't know if you know or not.
No, I am not following that too closely.
Hold on 1 second. Okay, here's the list of players that have not signed. Zach Wilson of the Jets, Trey Lance of the 49ers, Rashawn Slater of the Chargers, Elijah Vera-Tucker of the Jets, Mac Jones of the Patriots, and let's see, Tress Etienne for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Craig Newsom of the Browns, and that's it. There's 5 guys out. Like, oh, sorry, there are 7 guys still in the first round that have not been signed. I mean, like, Jalen Waddle of the Dolphins signed May 14th. Like, yeah, a lot of these guys, they didn't screw around. They got right in. It's like, I know, especially because you got 2 guys on the Jets that haven't been signed yet, and they're key components like going forward. And you're kind of, Grant, I think training camp doesn't start to the end of the month, but you're kind of really close. I mean, granted, it's a little less now just because it's like, I'm sure they got the iPad at home studying the playbook, but still, it's like, are they going to be holding out till then?
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's just baffling. And they have a typo on NFL.com in case you care. It's a pretty big one. Like, it's like, they have, like, you know, a sign, like they have a sign, like they have the first round tracker. The editor has just like copy and pasted it, basically changed the date, and I don't think he's realized it yet, because it says like the player that's it's like blank. It says like Zach Wilson, New York Jets, and it's blank. But for like the Jacksonville Jaguars, it says signed. Like, it says, for example, for Kyle Pitts, it says signed. Pitts signed his rookie deal on June 29th, which is true.
Mm.
But for Trevor Lawrence, it says signed. Pitt signed his rookie contract deal on July 5th. They might have to change Pitts to Lawrence, just throwing that out there. Yeah, someone just did this a little too fast for their own thinking. Yeah, it's like all these guys have signed their contracts, but like there's some decent sized names that haven't. Like the quarterbacks are just like this is baffling. The quarterbacks are like the last to sign. I mean, that's like I don't know if that like makes me question leadership or what. Like I mean, for them personally, because it's like you're the quarterback of the team. I'd be the first person to sign if I'm a quarterback to show, hey, this is my team, especially when it's your team now.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to show leadership.
Well, and that's kind of what it comes down to. It's, you are going to be driving the bus, so there's no reason for you not to sign this deal. You're playing for this team. I can't
and you pay this
imagine
amount of money.
Right. I can't imagine you holding out that they're going to give you more money. Like,
no, they can't.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, they might be able to give you more incentives, but the physical amount of money they can't change.
Yeah, they can't change your second deal. It's like, I don't know what the hell you guys are waiting for. The ice to freeze, them to bring back cheerleaders, something. I don't know. It's just this thing. It's literally something I do not know what they're waiting for. It's like, I mean, just like, I'd be NFL draft night. I'd be, especially like the first round pick. I make sure, especially when it's a player like Trevor Lawrence, where it's gonna be him, no one else. If it's anyone else, I will move to Canada or like Mexico or something like that. Where it's like it's him and no one else. If I was Jacksonville, I would offer the contract on like the week before the draft. Here's the deal, sign it.
Yeah.
We want you under contract now.
Yeah, because they
used to do that.
They have nothing to lose. He has nothing to gain by waiting.
Yeah, if you're if you're surefire number one pick, you have nothing to gain. You know exactly the amount of money you're getting. Especially when it's like Trevor Lawrence, you're the worst kept secret, the number one overall pick. So there's no benefit for you. Like, except there's no benefit for you holding out. What are you waiting for?
Right.
So sign the damn deal.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like even like I think Sam Bradford even had his deal signed before he got drafted by the Rams.
Oh yeah.
The last year, there's one of them. I forgot what year it was. Like they had besides like Peyton Manning, but it was like someone else like that where they literally had the deal in place. Like a week before the draft, it's like he's already signed to his deal because we knew he was gonna be the number one overall pick.
Right.
I think it was like Andrew Luck did it as well. It's like we know you're gonna be number one. Like there's
everybody there was no secret as to who was going number one. It was just which team is going to pick them.
Right. It's like they literally. I mean, okay, draft orders are set. Here's your contract. It's not hard. I mean, I get it if you're someone like Kyler Murray. I get that a little more confusion because you have the baseball deal in place.
Right.
But if you're not like someone like that, and you're like a sheer football player, like I say, if you know you're the number one overall pick, I would sign that contract so fast, like, hey, I got money coming my way now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just missing something. Maybe I don't know sports like some people.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some reason why he didn't sign it right away.
Because maybe they want to make him cut his hair. I don't know. It's the only thing I can think of. Or or maybe they tell him you could just like shave off like Gardner Minshew's hair or something like that, like he did.
Yeah, that's what he was waiting for. That was a term of the contract.
Yeah, only I can have the mullet. Sorry, but like I said, I digress. Like I don't know. See, it's like so 1-0 Montreal over Tampa Bay halfway through the second period. It's early. I'm checking if there's any Major League Baseball sport I should care about tonight. Holy crap! The Pirates are winning a game.
Happens every once in a while.
It's the top of the seventh. They're up 6-1 in Atlanta.
Oh, playing the Braves.
Yeah, they got adventurous.
That's helpful to me if they win that game.
I see your Phillies and Cubs are tied at 2.
Yes, 2. Hoping to not be tied. We'll see how this goes.
I presume you're watching the game.
Yes, it is on in the background, so every once in a while my head turns this way. It's because I'm catching the action. Although I missed both home runs. Literally looked after it happened.
Of course, it happens that way. Well, you're on 4 straight pitches. Very nice. God, I keep forgetting Didi Gregorius is on your team.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, he just came back a couple days ago, too.
It's like, what? Wait, hold on. And Andrew McCutcheon's still on your team. God, he's like, what, 900 years old? Seriously, he's got to be like up there.
He is. I'm gonna
34.
Go find out. 34.
I got it right.
Okay.
Yeah, he's born October 10th, 1986. I was like,
not too bad.
I mean, I remember him when he started for the Pirates, like way
Oh yeah,
back.
He's been around forever.
That's why I said, like, Jesus, he's like 50 years old or something. Yeah, there's like I said, there's only there's only one shutout right now. It's the Tigers and the Rangers, and they got one run between them. Yeah, so I got to talk about the whole like doctoring the ball thing. Like, I have to talk about it because I remember I saw it online. I wanted to smack the living hell out of someone because they mentioned how it's like because they're like, oh yeah, they're protesting because the that All-Star game was moved out of Atlanta, so like the numbers are down. I'm like, no, it's because defense is down. I mean, because offense is down. That's why no one's watching baseball.
Right.
It's that damn simple. It's not because of the protests.
Yeah.
Sorry. Try again. Thanks for playing. Oh yeah. So where's the All-Star game? And they're like, oh wait, it's in Colorado. That's right. So yeah.
It's ridiculous that people are making that kind of claim to why things are the way they are, because that's ultimately what it comes down to is offense is down. When offense is down, ratings are down. When ratings are down, everything for baseball is down. You can't have low ratings and you can't have low attendance, and both of those things are being impacted by the fact that there's no offense. So that's why Major League Baseball is cracking down on the pitchers, and I find it very interesting that certain pitchers, in particular, I'm going to name drop Garrett Cole and Aroldis Chapman for the Yankees, have both been struggling significantly since the crackdown not being allowed to use sticky stuff anymore. There are other pitchers around the league that are facing that as well, but those are two kind of big names that it's easy to,
and then we got
watch where the decline
what's
is
his name?
going.
I was thinking, what's his name on Seattle got caught, and he claims it was only rosin.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, there was the first case of one getting caught, but I will tell you, I think there's a level of ridiculousness when the umpires start checking position players who come in to pitch. Because
that's a little much.
It's like the optics of that are so stupid, because this guy, like,
he throws a 46-mile fastball.
It's not even just that. It's the idea of he had no idea when he took the outfield in that inning. He had no idea that he was going to be double switched into pitch, or when he's just sitting on the bench, waiting for his turn to bat the next inning. He has no idea he's going to be brought into pitch. Managers don't go to their guys before the game and say, hey, if we're losing by 10 runs, you're the one who's going to pitch today. Or, show of hands, who wants to try pitching? That's not something that they do. So there's absolutely no reason to check a position player. I think that's ridiculous. I think that's complete theater, and it's just dumb. It is a waste of time. Baseball's long enough as it is. It's just dumb.
It's like when Pro Football drug tested Pat McAfee after drawing that returner or Trendon Holiday. It's like you're really gonna check a kicker?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. But I mean, the whole sticky stuff thing it's not going away. It's pitchers are going to still find ways that are within the rules. It's like hitters; they find ways that are within the rules, and ultimately the goal is just to get offense back in the game. And slowly but surely, I think if pitchers aren't as super powered as they have been able to with the advantage that quote unquote sticky stuff does, hopefully that'll go back to that. But yeah, I mean, as far as pitchers go, I think there's another really big story in baseball, that we kind of didn't really have a chance to talk about. Details are still developing in this story, so there's a lot of information yet to come out. But Trevor Bauer, everyone's favorite pitcher, the guy who was on Twitter trolling a bunch of 16-year-old girls for telling him that he sucked and, just being an overall kind of shitty human being. Turns out he may, in fact, be a shitty human being to the highest extent. So he's currently on restricted leave from Major League Baseball, which is generous. I understand that they have to get all the facts and they have to get all the details of this case, but he may well have raped a woman. So that is not
Yeah,
something that is going to go away. Even if he didn't rape, to the legal definition of the word rape, even if he didn't do that, what has come out so far about his actions, it is completely reprehensible. It is completely unacceptable. He should not be on restricted leave. He should be suspended for the rest of the season pending further investigation.
yeah, absolutely.
So
I yeah.
like I mean I get it. You want to give somebody the benefit of the doubt, but
You can't with that.
you have to believe the
You
victim.
you have to talk to the victim.
Well, that too. And maybe Major League Baseball is stepping back because they're waiting for at this stage of the game there's probably a police investigation
I would
that
hope.
needs to proceed first. So maybe this is what Major League Baseball has to do to allow the police investigation to proceed, because he could end up going to jail.
Yeah, you should suspend him indefinitely, not even for the season, just until further notice.
Right, until pending investigation. And if it comes back, the investigation, that he did nothing wrong, which I highly doubt, but if it comes back that he did nothing wrong, then let him play again. He can go ahead and he can sue the league for lost wages or whatever the heck he wants to do. That's within his prerogative. But it is more likely than not, given what has come out, that he is guilty of at least some level of inappropriate contact with this woman that deserves a suspension, and depending on the significance of it, could go a full length of a criminal investigation. And like I said, he could go to jail. And if he did it, he should. If he did it, he absolutely should go to jail.
And if he did, they needed to institute the lifetime ban.
Yeah, he can't come back.
No matter what, even if he gets out in a year, no.
Yeah, like I'm sorry. The NFL let Ben Roethlisberger get away with it. The NBA let Kobe Bryant get away with it because these women settled out of court, which it very well could happen here too, because Trevor Bauer has money, he has power, he has influence. So this could well be settled out of court. He might not face jail time, and then of course there's no reason for the league to put a ban on him. But it's is there proof that Ben Roethlisberger raped this woman? Is there proof that Kobe Bryant raped this woman? No, there's not. But it is more probable than not that both of these men are guilty of what they were accused of, and it is more probable than not that their privilege and their position as professional athletes is the reason why they did not serve jail time.
And it doesn't help that Ben's been always countlessly spotted in like sorority houses, even to this day.
Right, like more probable than not.
It does. The optics are bad. We'll just say that in the nicest way possible.
Yeah.
Because
innocent until proven guilty, it's all fine and good, but as I think we can kind of look at the Bill Cosby example where he gets out of jail on a technicality.
Yeah.
Very well probably did the things that he was accused of doing.
I'm surprised, if we're going to talk about this real quick, I'm surprised he hasn't been shot by one of the people that he allegedly attacked.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I'm sure he has tons of security and all that when he goes out and whatnot. But it was a perfect example of something that I've said for years now, and it is not a color thing. It is not a black-white thing. In some cases, yes, there's a court for whites and there's a court for blacks. But when it comes to celebrities, there is a court for the rich and there's a court for the poor. Your skin color does not matter. If you have influence, if you have power, the only color that matters is green. Like, if this had happened to someone not famous, some non-Bill Cosby, do they get out on a technicality? No, probably not. It's probably not even something that lawyers are investigating.
Or like
because they don't have money to have a legal team who's looking into these agreements that are made with previous
every little detail of a lawsuit.
Right, exactly.
And like I said, the only color that matters, honestly, is green.
Yeah, 100%. if you have the money, South Park made that joke about AIDS and Magic Johnson having the cure to AIDS, and the cure to AIDS was money. Like, money does give you things, does grant you power that you otherwise don't have. And like I said, that money doesn't matter if you're male or female. Doesn't matter if you're black or white. Doesn't If you
Well,
have
look at
money, you
Hope
can
Solo. Was it
get
Hope
yourself.
Solo or was
Yeah,
it DV?
who had the DV? Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, who like crushed like her like was it was even I think a sibling or it was like a
I think it
step
was like her
sibling.
nephew.
Yeah, it crushes like her head against like a cinder block or something like that.
It was something like bad.
Yeah, something really. It's like something if you did, you'd be like, yeah, you'd still be in. You'd have a new girlfriend. We'll just leave it at that. You'd get 3 solid meals a day, and you'd healthcare from the state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just like I said. The only color that matters is green.
So we'll see where things go with this Trevor Bauer situation. But I've never liked him when everything started to come out about him and going after teenage girls on Twitter because they didn't like them. I'm sorry, you're a professional athlete. Don't troll teenagers. One, that's weird. Two, it's completely inappropriate.
You're a celebrity. You have enough followers where it's like you have to filter shit out.
Right.
Like you should have
Right. You know there's going to be haters in your mentions. Ignore them.
It's like you probably get how many mentions a night?
Me personally?
No. I'm talking
good night. If I tweet, maybe one.
Well, no, I'm saying like if you're like, we'll just say if you're, well, we use like if we use like Josh Allen, how many tweets from women he probably gets a day?
Yeah, you're getting hundreds, if not thousands.
Yeah, and I mean it's still small. I mean, Josh is a relatively small celebrity still, but you got someone that say it's on the Yankees or on the Dodgers or like on the Lakers. Like if you're like we'll use LeBron James compared to Josh Allen.
Oh yeah.
And okay, let me say I'm not accusing LeBron or anyone of anything right now besides Bauer,
being
but like,
famous. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're LeBron James, how many mentions a night do you think he hits? Even if he just stays off Twitter for the night.
Right. Oh yeah,
100,000?
There's tons. And that's why these people have individuals who like I'm sorry, you can't tell me that LeBron James is doing his own. He may be doing his own tweeting. There's no way that he's reading his messages. Like, he does not do that. He pays somebody that does that.
He probably pays 10 people.
And tells him, like, hey, here's 10 tweets that, might be cool if you retweet. Like, that's it.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's like if he gets like, I would say he probably has 10 people looking over his Twitter account.
Would not surprise me if there's a whole team. Yeah.
Just because of the number of people.
Right.
Just because of who he is.
The volume of it, it's too much for one person.
It's like, honestly, God, it's like Donald Trump or like whoever's the current president of the United States for the last 3 presidents.
Yeah.
They have people theoretically looking over the Twitter account.
Oh, yeah.
For like, I mean, you got to filter out death threats.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Which is a felony still, by the way, but not the point here.
The price of being famous.
Yeah, it's the price / punishment of being famous is the fact that you would get, like, if you handle your own Twitter account, I wish you luck.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a big enough celebrity, like when you're like a LeBron, a Shaq, or something like that. For example, it's just like because you'll get so many mentions a night, even if you don't say a word on social media.
Right, you could go social media dark for a week, and you would still get tens of thousands of mentions a night.
Yeah, easy without trying. Like, and most of them would be like, "Where are you?"
Yeah.
But
come back.
I mean, yeah. We'll see how this story goes. I mean, it's not looking good. We'll say that nicely.
Yeah.
The optics are piss poor to be kind, and which, like, if we get more story by the time we have next show, we'll talk about it. If not, we'll just carry on. We'll get news when we get it.
Yep.
And like I said, I give him an indefinite suspension from baseball until further notice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a developing story, and you have to take immediate action.
Because you can't do the rest of the season because if some way somehow if he's found innocent for whatever reason,
right?
And then like if he's found innocent, then yes, you gotta do then you have to reinstate him.
Yeah.
But if he's found if he settles, you might want to talk to some people. and get the right answer and say like, okay, he's gone for 2 years,
Yeah.
or he's gone for life.
Yeah, I don't think it would be a lifetime ban. Short of prison, I think that would probably be the only thing that you would put him in a lifetime ban for. But if he settles out of court, he's going to get the benefit that all other professional athletes who settle out of court do.
I'd give him a year. You set out the rest of the year then.
That's probably what would happen.
I would hope.
But we'll see.
It's Major League Baseball. They don't exactly know how to punish right. But on that note, I've got nothing else. I really do. Well,
Yeah,
something else.
I think we're good. We
got the weather talk
the only thing
first.
we didn't really talk about was Wimbledon. That's a thing that's going on. Raj Federer, Novak Djokovic, they're still doing their thing. The Olympics are coming up. I guess there's some Olympic related stories that we could touch on, but
I mean, the sprinter we can talk about if you want.
Yeah, I was gonna say
whether weed should be considered porn for cancer. I get the argument why it is.
Mm-hmm.
I do, because my dad actually had to talk about it one time. It's like, because it's a painkiller.
Right.
It's a form of painkiller. Yes, it's a natural herb. I get it. It's a banned substance.
So here's my thing. You are an Olympic athlete. You train years for this dream. You train years for the opportunity to go and take part in potentially one event, like one opportunity to win a medal. You spend 4 years training for that. You are well aware of what the banned substances are. You can't not smoke marijuana for, 2 weeks, a month, 3 months, whatever the case might be, like in order to, you're putting the potential of failing a drug test over your Olympic dream. I find it very hard to feel sympathy for somebody, like the same way that in the NFL, you know the substances you can't take. Don't try to get around it by taking a substance and then failing a drug test and blaming it on the system. Like, you committed the offense. You knew that what you were doing was against, whether or not the rules are arcane or not is an entirely separate conversation. Should we be telling athletes that they can't smoke marijuana if the state that they live in, marijuana is legal, or they're getting medical marijuana or whatever? Probably not. But as the rules stand, it tells you that you can't smoke marijuana.
And the Olympics are just weird, where it's like you could have trace amounts of like.
They have a lot of weird rules.
And people are trying to make it a race issue. It's not.
It's not a race issue. No. That I have an issue with that, because again, you can't argue. I mean, you can make the argument that people that potentially use marijuana, it does maybe go disproportionately to one race or the other. I can't speak to that. I won't even attempt to, because I don't know the data. I don't know the the statistics there. But even if that were the case, this individual made a choice. They chose to do something that was against the IOC.
But did you see the other like the guy from Africa who he had too much of a
thing?
Yeah, where he had too much for like the 400, but not enough for the 200.
Yeah, see, that I have more of a problem with.
Yeah, I do too, because it's like, because it's like the whole disparity with this goes. Let's just hop in the way back machine, shall we, to 1988 with Ben Johnson. He used steroids. He admitted he used steroids.
Right.
But they found steroid like hormones and stuff like that. And almost you find them in every like Olympic athlete, especially track and field stars. But it's just the sheer ratios of like if they're even like, for whatever reason, if you take a masking agent or whatever you take, and the ratios aren't enough, you pass. Even though you probably, it's like, are they running it? I mean, I think people are blind to the fact that people think, oh yeah, this guy cheated because he used steroids. Well, so did him, so did him, so did him, so did him. But it wasn't enough.
Right.
That's the thing, like, or it's out of their system and fast enough.
Right.
For one reason.
People learn how to get competitive advantages, whether it's steroids, whether it's, sticky stuff, as we were talking about in baseball. You learn what you can do, and to the degree that you can do it, so that you will be able to pass that test, have the umpire check you out and you're clear, or whatever the case might be. Like, athletes learn that. And if you are competing within the rules, then I have no problem with that. The rules are a problem. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. The Olympic rules are, I think they're way too stringent. I think they are way too, there's a potential for too much variation, which is problematic because, like you said, you can have some athletes who are using it a little, others who are using it a little bit more. They're just
or
using it,
or
more
their body just
intelligently,
processes it
right?
differently.
Or they're exactly. There's all kinds of different variations. Different sports have different variations of how these things work. You have different countries which have different rules, and I think that's a whole separate conversation that the Olympic Committee needs to have, is regarding, are their policies, do they need to make updates to their policies based on the situation of the world? Because I feel like the IOC hasn't updated their policies in probably decades. They're probably operating off of the same steroid use policies
Probably
that they've
since the
had,
'88.
yeah, since the 80s. So,
But like I
is
said,
it time to revisit? Probably. But as the rules stand, whether you like them or not, you want to be an Olympic athlete, which means you have to fall under the governance of those rules. It's like committing a crime in the United States. You know what the rules are. If you get sent to jail for committing a crime, I have a very hard time feeling sorry for you because you broke a law that you were aware that there could be the potential for punishment. So these athletes are making a choice, and if they slip up because they use too much steroid and they get banned, or they're smoking marijuana, or they're doing these other things, you made that conscious choice. You know, the rules are what they are. You
yeah, and
don't
like I
have to
said,
like the rules, but the rules are what they are. So you knew that there was a potential for a problem there.
but I mean, and like I said, marijuana might be not the only issue she has.
Right. It's very possible that
It's
there
just
are other things that we don't know about.
and marijuana is just the hot button one because, well, it's weed. I mean, it's always been like the hot button issue in sports.
Right.
Like I said, like I mean, if you got women, men and women that take like X, Y, and Z, but like I said, I metabolize it twice as fast as say you, but you fail your drug test, and I took the same amount as you.
Right.
For whatever reason, because I mean, I'm like 6 inches
Well,
taller
it's
than
the
you.
same idea of people that drink alcohol and fail a blood alcohol content test. Your
Yeah,
body, if you're a bigger person, you are going to be able to drink more drinks and have less of an effect than a smaller person. That's
sorry.
just genetically, how alcohol, how
Yeah,
what we've learned about alcohol and how it works. Marijuana, other hard drugs, they're going to work the same way. So
yeah, and like and like I said, every
it's
person's
tough
different.
situation. It's a tough situation to be in. I feel bad that this individual is potentially losing their Olympic dream. Although it would not
She's like
surprise me.
21 though.
It would not surprise me if she's still allowed to compete. At this point, it would not surprise me at all, especially if they turn this into a race issue. There's a very large chance that the IOC will
I
relent
don't think they
and they
will.
will let her compete.
I doubt it. Although because they're like I said, they got their head so far in the sand. I don't think they do.
Yeah, but if they want to turn this into a race issue and they potentially put the idea of race on the Olympics, that's a bigger problem for a lot of reasons, and
Absolutely, it is.
it's a whole separate issue that they would then have to tackle. I mean, look at the US basketball team. People have actually come out and said that the United States is afraid to send an all-black basketball team to the Olympics, and that's why they put Kevin Love on the roster. So race is already peripherally. I know you can roll your eyes as much as you want. I think it's ridiculous as well, but race is already peripherally a story around these Olympics. We have another story now where people are going to associate, the disproportionate use of drugs with this athlete, and why white athletes don't test positive for marijuana, like whatever they're going to turn this into, whatever the story is going to become, it deflects from what the Olympics is supposed to be. And if there is pressure on other nations, particularly the United States, if they're pressuring the IOC, because I don't think this was a US drug test that she failed, I think it was an Olympic drug test,
I
which
think so too.
is probably a little bit more stringent, anyway. If there's pressure on from one of the biggest, most impactful countries when it comes to the Olympics, it would not. I'll put it this way: it wouldn't surprise me if they do let her compete. It also wouldn't surprise me if they don't. But if they don't let her compete, I think that there is a bigger story that comes out of this that the IOC is going to have to deal with. That's not just related to race, not just related to their drug policies and their policies on steroid use. There's going to be a
I
conversation akin to the Russian doping situation that happened several years ago.
It's still going on.
It is still going on. There's athletes that still aren't able to compete.
Like the whole country,
That
Russia
still
still.
can't compete under their flag.
Yeah, they literally the Russian team
Yeah.
cannot be on
The
the Russian
Olympic
team.
delegation from Russia, as I'm pretty sure what they're called, or
Yeah,
Olympic athletes. It's like OAR, Olympic athletes from Russia, but you are not allowed to compete under the red,
Russian
white, and
banner.
blue of the Russian flag.
Yeah, and like if you won the national anthem, I think they play the Olympic song.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe they just play the generic song.
It's just all this. It's just like I don't know how you fix it other than being like fully transparent what people are using.
I mean, there's a lot of issues within the IOC. The IOC is probably the most corrupt sporting organization this side of FIFA.
I would say FIFA's still the standard of excellence.
Yeah, so like that's saying a lot because everybody knows how bad FIFA is, and the IOC is right there. So they have to answer for a lot of other things. There are a lot of issues that the Olympics, have struggled with and continue to struggle with and have to address. This is just going to become one of them. And given the whole doping conversation from years past, we're not talking about steroids this time around. We're talking about a substance that is well and legal in a lot of places, and does the argument kind of comes down to, does marijuana give you a competitive advantage? And if the answer to that is yes, then you have to keep it on your banned substance list. If the answer to that is no, or at least it is a open competitive advantage, it's something where anyone has the opportunity to use it, then I don't see a reason. Yeah, I don't see a reason why they continue to ban it. I don't see a reason why the U.S.-based sports leagues, like the NFL and Major League Baseball and all that, I don't see a reason why they would continue to ban it if we get to a situation they don't anymore.
Right.
And I think the reason why was because of what we're talking about. It is an option that is, well, I guess it's technically not available to everyone because it's not legal in every state, but just about anybody can get medical marijuana, and that's legal in more states than recreational marijuana would be.
Right.
But the idea of likening that to steroids when they offer completely different, I don't necessarily want to say like benefits, but they work completely differently in what they allow you to do, or how it's like how athletes are allowed to take a cortisone shot. Cortisone shot basically freezes your muscle in place, and you could play on an injury.
Please enlighten me how this works, Marilee.
Yeah, I present company, like, but it's one of those things that
that was deserved, by the way, if you didn't see it.
We let athletes use some of these methods.
Yeah, I mean, not to belittle someone like Kurt Angle, but or Kerry Strug. I mean, they had to be on something pretty goddamn strong to complete to do their final vault, or just do the whole Olympics with a broken neck, or he didn't If you think he did that without
the Olympics was where the painkiller addiction actually started for Kurt Angle.
Well, you break your neck, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah. Well, he actually, it's very interesting. I was reading an article from ESPN. It was looking back. I think it was the 20-year anniversary of it, which this year is because of the way that the Olympics got
25
moved.
years.
This year's the 25th anniversary of it. He actually broke his neck prior to the Olympics.
It was like the U.S. trials.
So, and he was told, there's no way you're going to heal in enough time. There's no way you're going to be able to compete. So he did. He started using, I don't necessarily know if it was steroids, but he was doing a lot of things that would be considered probably, if not against the rules, certainly unconventional methods that, to get a doctor to clear him. That doctor probably shouldn't have a medical license.
Well, I hate to break to you, but also athletes lie.
Oh yeah, athletes lie all the time, but you still need a doctor to clear you. And if a doctor completes that physical, and that physical says your neck is screwed, but you want to compete in this Olympics, so we're gonna, and that's kind of the way that Angle told the story. Was he knew that he was potentially sacrificing his future and his health
for 4 matches.
just for the right to try to win a gold medal.
And like I said, Lord knows what he was on.
Yeah. It was like I said, that was when, that's when he says
cortisone.
that his painkiller addiction kind of started, because he was taking nothing that was against, whatever would have had him test positive for the Olympics. That's exactly what it was. He got it cleared.
Like I'm surprised more athletes. I'm sure more athletes do that. It's
and there's loopholes. There's tons of loopholes for these athletes. It's just the way the IOC operates. It's almost an unfair system within a fair system, because they look at it as anybody has this opportunity. Anybody can come get something cleared. Well, not everything is going to get cleared. Maybe what you're taking for your injury won't work for my injury, and what I want to take has level of, like I'm taking extra strength Tylenol, and there's one ingredient out of those 15 ingredients in there that's on a banned substance list. You just don't know.
Or it metabolizes different in your system than mine.
Right. Which is you can't do anything about it. It sucks. It's unfair, but the human body being what it is, it's not the IOC's fault that your metabolism works better than somebody else's. So yeah, it's an unfair system within what they consider to be fair confines.
Yeah, it's like it's like we talked about you briefly touched on the NFL. It's like sometimes like NFL players get prescriptions from doctors, and it's like I have a prescription where I was in a hospital for this.
Yep.
And then I get popped for a failed drug test.
Yeah.
I've talked to a pro football player about this personally, actually, because he talked about it very openly, which I was applauding for being so open about it. But there used to be a Bills tight end named Sean Nelson who got he got concussion in a game, and then he went to the hospital because of it, because it's a concussion, and he was in the hospital overnight because it was a pretty bad concussion. The doctor gave him something in the hospital under doctor's care,
right?
And within the next week, he had to take a drug test for what was a random drug test. And he got popped for 4 games. Just where he's like, I was in the hospital, and here's what they gave me.
Right.
And this is a banned substance. Like, well, I think we learn more about banned substances in sports and from WWE's wellness policy than anything.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like, oh yeah, these guys are taking this stuff to either numb pain or
over-the-counter medicine. Not even prescription drugs, over-the-counter medicine. Like I was saying, the example with the extra strength Tylenol. You might have 15 ingredients in there, and only one of them is a banned substance. But the trace level of that you're getting in your little tiny Tylenol, it's ridiculous. It is not giving you a competitive advantage, but it is enough to have you test positive on the drug test.
Yeah, it's weird, bizarre. I mean, we could talk. Like I said, we could talk about this for another day if we wanted to.
Yeah, but it's a whole separate issue. The way that these drug policies and wellness policies in sports are, and reform is required, but specifically at the Olympic level, because they have a lot of issues.
I forgot it was Dennis Leary or George Conn said, "Screw it, just make every drug legal for the Olympics, and just see who can get the
just have a bunch of super athletes."
That's what he was saying. Like, yeah.
If every drug is legal, there is more. If every drug is legal, you can make more of a race argument and more of an inequality argument, because for a fact the United States can get their hands on the best performance-enhancing drugs compared to what Zimbabwe can get.
Yeah.
Look at the COVID vaccine for you don't even have to go any further than that. We
go
got
Canada.
3 of the best pharmaceutical companies to make a vaccine, and then AstraZeneca was like, well, we have one, but it's probably only like 70% effective, and all your other ones are 90% effective. Okay, rest of the world, you can have AstraZeneca. So we gave, initially, I'm sure they're giving better vaccines now that we have the supply for it, but initially, the vaccine that we provided to other countries was the worst vaccine that we had available. We kept the best for ourselves. That is 100% how performance-enhancing drugs would work if they were allowed in the Olympics. The United States and other nations like Canada, like the United Kingdom, like Russia, like China would have a competitive advantage that would be too much to overcome, and that defeats the purpose of the Olympics. Because yes, the Olympics are about the best athletes coming together, but anything can happen on any given day. And there are so many stories when these athletes from smaller countries that can't afford. Look at the Jamaican bobsled team for
They couldn't afford.
example.
Yeah,
Like
they couldn't.
they had to self-fund their way to the Olympics, and that happens to so many athletes from these other individual countries.
Or
Or
like
you'll have a situation where a country has to pick and choose. Like we can qualify for this, but we can't afford to send both the men and women's team, so we're going to send the men's team. Like that happens all too often.
Or like a better example than the Jamaican bobsled team would be like the Lithuanian basketball team from the '92 Olympics.
Yep, that's another one.
That's a great example because I mean, like everyone talks about the dream team from '92, but the Lithuanian like basketball team is a better story.
Right.
I mean, they got funding from the Grateful Dead, which is 1,000 times cooler. Number one, but it's like, and they pulled away from the Soviet Union. That's what led to Lithuanian independence. And then they like, yeah, it's like, I mean, like I said, we mentioned between the United States and Zimbabwe. One thing I love about the Olympics, especially the opening ceremonies, is you learn like, hey, there's like 6 new countries.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, where the hell is this thing from? And like, yeah, you see a team like this little island in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. It's like they're sending their first Olympic delegation. And it's 2 people. Then you see the United States, who sends like 300.
Yep. Yeah, no, the opening ceremonies, it's probably one of my favorite parts about the Olympics for that reason.
I'm curious what Tokyo does. I'm really curious now, and I'm happy they're doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, if they didn't do it this year, I said move it back 2 years and just move everything back 4.
No, if they didn't do it this year, they would have had to cancel.
That's utter bullshit.
Yeah,
I'll flat out say
they wouldn't have had a choice because the way that the structure works, it's not just the Olympics that are impacted. It's world championships. It's countries' individual championships. If you pushed it back another year, you're talking 2 years in between Olympics because they are not moving. 2024. That's not getting moved. Like they wouldn't say, "Hey, we're going to move this to 2026." Because then now you have a situation where your Summer Olympics and your Winter Olympics are in the same year, and they don't like to do that.
I've said 2020.
The World Cup is in 2026, so it would have been a whole nother issue as far as how they would structure the Olympics and the World Cup being in the same year. Because they intentionally don't do that.
Right, I was going to move back to 2024 to like Tokyo, then make 2028 where it's supposed to be for 2024, and so on and so forth. Like LA is becoming like 2032. But
how many times would you have to keep moving that back?
Yeah, like, I get it.
Just skip,
It would suck for the Japanese government for spend all the money.
Well, and that's a big part of it too. You take the Olympics away from somebody. The Olympics are a money pit. You lose money hosting the Olympics
unless you're in the United States.
Well, yeah, of course. Go figure.
Yeah, because we have everything built already. It's like the trivia. It's like the trivia question I got. And I don't know if we talked about it last time. Like the trivia question was like for the U.S. Men's Olympics or not the last like the World Cup had the largest attendance in what city for the men? Mm-hmm. By average, we're having an average of 69,000 people per game. What country had it? By the way, the bar question, everyone but my group said the wrong answer, and they said Brazil.
That's the United States.
Yeah. I'm like, I yelled. The reason why? Because they played all the games in football stadiums.
Right.
And they were already pre-built.
Right, exactly. They had no, and that's the biggest thing with the Olympics is you build all these venues and then you don't use them after the fact.
Go to Athens, Greece. I mean, it's a great example. Like everything's derelict. I mean, China's better about it because they actually use the stuff. So like the water cube, which is the coolest thing ever, by the way.
And that's the key. That's the key is using your venues to continue to use your venues. And the United States did a fantastic job with that they still use a lot of their Olympic venues. And if the United States does, if LA does get the Olympics.
They do. I think they got in, I think they have the Olympics in 2032.
Is that what it is, 2032?
It's either 32 or 28.
I wasn't sure if that was, maybe it's 28, actually. Now I'm curious.
Yeah, it is 2028.
2028, yeah.
Yeah.
So by the time they get to there, I don't even really think they'd have to build that much.
They don't, because I mean, you got to think about it. They've got
football stadiums, basketball stadiums, baseball stadiums, soccer stadiums, like anything that you need is probably already there.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the college, you got USC there, you got UCLA there alone. Right. Plus, you got SoFi Stadium, which is probably where the opening ceremonies are going to be, or the Coliseum again, which would probably be the Coliseum because it's bigger. But you can play if you need a second venue for a soccer match, you've got 4 major colleges right there.
Right.
And they've got soccer stadiums big enough
and
where
they don't all have to be in LA. Like, that's kind of the misconception of these Olympics is your venues don't have to be in that city. You can extend outward. So if they needed an additional stadium, you have what,
San Diego,
4 Major League Baseball stadiums in California that you could use. You have football stadiums, basketball, like they have everything that they would need. There's tracks for track and field.
Well, LA is the anomaly because they got everything there.
Well, yeah, LA alone, you probably could do it, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did expand a little bit outward for some of the stuff.
Yeah, if they did a game, say in like upstate New York, they were talking about making a bid, but they could use like Toronto. They could use like, I mean, even though it's a foreign country, they could they had an agreement with them and so they could use it.
Well, that's like the United States World Cup bid. The World Cup bid is based off of the country hosting it with about 8 host cities. So you could see games played in Philadelphia. You could see games played in Los Angeles, and
you got the facilities already set in place where it's like
they're all already built.
And the women's and men's World Cup worked their way west.
Yep.
It's like the games like, okay, we'll play the games like in like Giant Stadium or MetLife Stadium. We'll play them by Philly. They play the game in Philly. And they play the game like in Carolina, then they moved to like Texas, and then they finally got to Pasadena where it holds 120,000 people.
Right. So
it's like Olympics are just, for like I said, any country other than the United States, it's a quagmire.
Yep.
Because it's like you're putting at least it used to be $1 billion. I think this was for the Athens like Olympics, but now, God, I mean, I can't imagine what it would be for like say the 2032 Olympics, wherever it's going to be. If it's outside the United States, it's like it's going to cost you $10 billion to run it if you don't have the facilities yet.
Easily.
Because you have to build all these things, and like stadiums, like, I mean, granted, they're not going to be the size of an NFL stadium, but they're still going to be gigantic and gorgeous.
Right.
I mean, even the United States did that. They built stadiums for the purpose of like the Olympics. Like the old Brave Stadium, not Fulton County, the one after Turner Field, was built for the Olympics.
Yep.
And it cost them like $100 million to build, but that was also in 1995.
Yeah, and they still use it.
Yeah, well, not really, because they don't play there anymore.
Well, but up until very recently, like you're talking about the Olympics were in the 90s, they were still using Turner Field up until what, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Or like we go to LA again, like SoFi Stadium, where they're going to probably have events there.
Yeah.
It's an indoor stadium, and it's like it cost them $5 billion.
Right. But it's already built. Other countries would have to build a SoFi Stadium. We already have one because a football team wanted it. Right, or
one owner wanted it, but not the point here. and it gets money from like another team, which is a whole different story. But it's like, and like I said, they'll do the opening game in the Coliseum because history, and why the hell not? Because it holds 110,000 people for the Trojans football games, let alone when they have the opening ceremonies for Olympics. Because the opening ceremonies are going to be in the Coliseum because they've been there for every time it's been in LA.
Right.
Even back to like 32, I think it was even there. Or whenever the last time it was in LA before the 84 Olympics, someone said. But but going way back now to the race issue, I know we're going way over time, and I don't really care because I don't sleep. But if it's really going to be a race issue, that's going to make things really interesting really quickly.
Oh, for sure.
Because you could see the NBA, the basketball team going, we're not going to go.
Probably not.
But you've seen like pro athletes tweeting out, I don't know if you've seen it on Instagram, saying like, I use cannabis during my recovery for like medical reasons.
Yeah. Oh yeah, people are coming out and saying now like this individual is not alone.
Yeah, and these are big name athletes doing it. They're not small. But the problem is it's the rule for the game. It's like I don't know how to tread with it. Like I said, that's the choice. If it's becoming a race issue, it's gonna be an interesting Olympics.
Yep.
But if it's not a race issue, if it's the sheer like, I don't know what you do if you're IOC with her. I really, honest to God, don't. Because I think you're in a lose-lose situation.
Yeah.
Because worst case, you put her back in. Okay, you bent the rules for her, but you get what other drugs you
get? And that's the thing too. If you change the rules for one, you have to change the rules for everyone.
And is it just pot?
Probably for now.
But like I said,
If they were to change things, I think that would be your line would be, we're going to allow,
for this Olympics though,
right.
because it's way too close to change everything for the IOC.
Oh, that's the thing. It's a conversation that they have to have for future Olympics.
And they
this individual may end up paying the price, but her actions could lead to change for the better for future Olympics.
And the thing though is, like, if I'm the IOC, I start working on this as soon as the Olympics is over.
Yeah.
That you have to.
You have to. There's no choice.
Because you have 3 years and like 50 weeks, for lack of better words, to get this right, and you got to have a detailed drug list. Like, hey, this is banned for this reason, and this is it, and be completely transparent about it.
Yeah.
Like, is this drug banned? Like, go drug by. It's gonna take you. It may take you 3 years to get done, but you need to get it done, and you have to go virtually drug by drug.
That's what you would have to do.
I mean, like I said, there's thousands of drugs, but you have to go through them all. Because, okay, I took this. What's the effects? Does this really give the person a competitive advantage? Like, say if it's
right.
not even just weed. Say it's like a cortisone shot. What competitive advantage is this? Oh, this guy it numbs your joints so you can function.
Yeah.
Oh, because you got hurt. Is that a competitive advantage? I'd say so. Yes, it sucks you got hurt in the Olympics. They have people to replace you, or you have to step aside. It sucks. Like, I've been watching American Gladiators, like the old ones from like the 90s. It's the same shit. It's like they grant they don't have the medical knowledge they know now, but it's like back then. I guarantee those guys, like men and women, they got hurt. If they continued on, I can't imagine what they went through. Like, just the trainer did to them.
Yeah.
Because like, oh, you still want to go on? Here's a cortisone shot. We'll numb your knee. We'll see what happens. And
right.
Can you get through another 3 hours of shooting? But other than that, like we said, like we can talk hours for this, and it's a slippery slope to say the least. Like I said, I don't know enough about the medical benefits of marijuana, if there are any, other than like I know it's a painkiller for people, or it's or it helps them clear the head after a concussion. Apparently, like I said, I don't know enough because I've never used it. Like, I just took into like extra strength Tylenol and other painkillers.
Yeah.
But
there's a reason why medical marijuana is prescribed for certain things, because they have been able to learn, what works for, like I know a lot of people use it for glaucoma is one of the big ones. I don't particularly know like pain relief as far as what that does or doesn't do.
I hear from people, and it's not me like saying like I've used it without saying it. I'm open. I've never done anything illegal. I mean, the only thing I've probably done illegal is having shots when I was like 16. When I was like between 16 and 21. That's the only drug I've ever done illegally. But other than that, like I said, painkillers or like in cortisone, that's the only I've used.
Yeah, so I don't know if what the difference between something like that would be. Is it stronger than cortisone? Does it work if you have a particular kind of injury? I don't know. There's a lot of variables. There's a lot of variation as far as these things go. That it's an overhaul conversation that I think for a lot of different reasons, the Olympics need to start having these conversations, not just around drug policy.
I think every sport needs to have
a lot of different things. I mean, the whole too much testosterone thing, like that is going to become a big issue if we are suddenly discriminating against trans athletes because they have too much, or even if an athlete is not trans, but they simply have higher levels of testosterone because their body produces it.
We were talking about, like, I was talking this with my friend Christy last night. It's like we were talking about comparing me to President Kennedy, and go with us for 1 second, please. It's like he had a disease. I don't know if you know. He got a thing called Addison's disease.
Mm-hmm.
You know what that is?
No.
Imagine your body not producing adrenaline at all.
Okay.
He was in chronic pain all the time. Like they think he would have been impeached a second term because he'd be in so much pain, like because of his back. Like literally, your body does not produce adrenaline. Well, I've had friends like that are in the medical profession. Like they don't know if it's a nerve issue or my body secretes so much adrenaline I don't register pain. Like we've been joking about all the time, like how many injuries I've had, and I just keep going.
Right.
Does my body produce too much adrenaline? Is that an illegal drug? It's no different than producing too much testosterone for whatever reason. Like, I mean, Phil and I, we had a field day when that guy failed the drug test, and his excuse held up. When he said he had so much sex with his girlfriend or something like that, and his testosterone was too high because he had so much sex, and they let him through. It's like stuff like that. It's like, I mean, I get it, but like I said, some people produce more testosterone naturally than others, whether you're trans or not.
Right.
I mean, what's the difference? I mean, to me, there's no difference if your body secretes a hormone more than others. That's not your problem. I mean, like you can medically prove it's naturally occurring.
Right.
Like I said, like your body probably doesn't. I will bet money, and it's probably a safe bet that my body produces more adrenaline than yours. Not just because I'm a hair bit taller than you. I'll weigh you by like 3 or 4 pounds. That has nothing to do. I mean, my body literally does. It's the only way we can describe it. It's like I've literally broken a bone this year and not have it register because I'm awesome or something. Like I've broken my left thumb.
Yeah.
At work. You know what I did about it? I knew it broke. I felt it pop. I literally grabbed tape and just taped it up and kept going. Not the smartest course of action. Don't get me wrong, because I kind of need my my thumb to use to do my job. Yeah, and just in general, it's like I broke it and then I started my class. It was fun typing with a broken thumb. Like I put it back in place and taped it up. Not many people do that shit. Like they really don't. Most people, if they break a bone, they usually see a doctor.
Yeah.
These are normal people, mind you, not me. Like I broke my foot. We've talked about this. And then I called my boss and hey, I can't make it. Who's one of my best friends? Like, hey, I can't make it to work today. It's like, oh, how long are you be out for? I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because that's natural. I broke 3 bones in my foot. Like I just tied my shoe a shitload tighter, and that's all I did. Like I kicked off the boot for like my 4-hour shift. I went back, worked. I hopped around a little bit. I'm like, can I just work at a stationary position for a day or two? He's like, yeah, sure. And like I said, I just tied my shoe tighter. Was that the greatest thing in the world? Probably not. I did see a doctor. That's how I knew I broke the bones in my foot. I'm not just saying oh, I broke 3 bones. I actually had an X-ray. I could see the tarsals broken, and he told me to stay off for 2-3 weeks. Me, I stayed off for 24 hours because I could not put weight on it. As soon as I could put weight on it, I'm good.
Yep.
Is that good? Probably not. Like I said, my body produces more adrenaline than the average person. So and there's a way you can test that. Like you can test your body secretes more hormones than other ones. It's no different than a guy going bald. I mean, they don't make he makes a person that has hair. I'm making fun of myself here in case you didn't get it. But has more DHT. I think it's called dihydrogen testosterone, which produces hair on top of your head. If I got less of it, I have my bald spot and my bald spot. Well, that's a different reason, but it's a whole different story. But my bald spot back here, I admit I have one. It's big for me to say that, but it's if you have more in your head than I do. You have a full head of hair. Your body produces more testosterone, the DHT, I think it is. I could be wrong on the exact abbreviation, but you get the point.
Yeah.
It's just okay, and they can test for hey, this person produces more than then how do we? If this guy's an athlete, person's an athlete, how do you fix it?
Right. Right. You can't.
Yeah, you're banned because you produce too much testosterone. My body naturally makes that much. I don't know. I digress. I think they got to fix the whole system.
Yeah.
There's
a lot that the Olympics and the IOC in particular have to do.
I think all sports need to sit down, make a uniform set of rules.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be great if they could.
Or just have okay, the gymnasts have these set of rules. You can't do this, you can't use this, you can't use this, but you can use this.
Right.
Because it's just different wear and tear. Like, have a set of rules for every sport. This is the standard for the world.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't follow them, tough rocks, you're gone. Like, or like for football, for soccer, for baseball, for basketball, have the rules the same. Whether and if pot's legal in every one of them, okay, it's legal. If it's banned in everyone, okay, it's banned. That's the rule.
Yeah, I don't know, but probably nothing will be done, as soon as this year. But we'll certainly have more Olympics
my
to
IOC
talk about.
Yeah. We have, I think, 2 weeks before the Olympics, like 2.5 weeks.
July 23rd is the opening ceremonies.
And I guarantee you, the drugs will be talked about that night.
Yeah, for sure.
They will tread around it, then someone will just say something. You'll be like, okay, that secret's out. Well, that cat's out of the bag. But other than that, I got nothing else. If you want anything else for like the next.
Yeah, no, whatever. I think we're good. I think we covered everything.
Cool. Same time, we'll do something soon.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
Okay, we'll see when the news breaks. We'll be back. Okay, have a great night, everyone.